Okay, so last time on our tutorial, we did a real simple wireframe mockup of our World Religions webpage. But we need to add some things. We forgot to add headers and footers and navigation systems to help us navigate through our website. And that's really important that we put those things in. So as with a lot of times in designing things, you have to go back and tweak and make some things work. So what we're going to do is I'm going to delete, essentially I'm going to delete all of my religion detail pages. So we're going to go back, and I want to mess with these anyway. Change this up just a little bit, but we're going to have to make some adjustments to that page. So what I'd like to do is focus on this page here, which is our religions grid, and I want to show you some cool tricks that XD allows us to do, and this will save us time down the road, and it's also great for, like, say you want to do some of these things in the future. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete that out, and I'm going to go ahead and delete that as well, and I'm just going to start with my box, and I'm going to make my box for my images. And actually, you know what? I take this back. I gotta go. I'm already off track here. I wanna add in a header area and a footer area. So I want to move these buttons, and in fact, I'm gonna delete all of these buttons out, and I'm just gonna save the one here. So I'm gonna come back to that in just a minute. So I'm gonna start with my header, and I'm just gonna make a bar across the top, and it's going to be a fairly small header, and we can go ahead and fill this with a color if we'd like. I'm going to go ahead and do a gray color, and I'm just going to start with CCC, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 C's. Do I have 6 in there? I think so. Did that not work? Oh, hang on, I got to type in the pound symbol, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 C's. It's just a really light gray, and that's where we're going to put our header. And I'm going to do the same thing for our footer down here at the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same fill. And that's going to be number CCC, CCC. Okay. Now, before I move forward, I want to do two things to set us up for down the road. So if we need to switch and add footers and headers to the rest of our pages, it'll be a lot easier. And XD gives us the ability to make this happen in a really sweet way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click over here to my assets, and I'm going to click on my header first, click on my move tool, click on my header, and then I'm going to click symbols. Okay, and then this symbol is going to become, I need to rename this one's going to become header. Okay, and then next I'm going to do the same thing for footer. I'm going to add that into here, and I'm going to type in footer. And the reason why we're going to do this is so from now on, if we add a header or a footer into a page and we edit that header or footer, it'll change that style for every instance that we use the header and footer. And this will become apparent here in a minute when I show you how this works for our buttons down here just in a minute. We'll add some detail into this here in a little bit, but for now we're just going to go ahead and leave those two things as gray, so we can kind of have some space there to fill out the rest of our page, and then we'll come in and add those details later before we move on to our next, the next page. So here's what I want to show you. We're going to do the same thing with our title button that we created earlier, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the Shift key, and so I can select both the title text and the button itself. And then I'm going to go ahead and add that as another symbol over to our right. Actually, hang on, that didn't work. Hit the Shift key. Yeah, come on. And then go ahead and right click. Well, let's see here. Click all of that. Why aren't we selecting that here? Let me see if I can just grab it. There we go. See if I can just grab it that way. And then select Add Symbol. And then this symbol is going to become, we're just going to call this button number 2, because I'll have another button somewhere else, but we're just gonna call that button number 2. Okay. And so now you'll see this little green piece around here, and I'm going to show you why this is so cool and powerful in just a minute. Before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and add another square, and this is going to become our image that we're going to place in here. And so from here, I'm going to lay this out as a grid, and I want to do this so it's a little bit easier to manage later on. So this is another powerful feature in Adobe XD. So I could copy and paste these or drag these out and lay these out in that way. But what I want to do is I want to do this as a repeat grid. And so now you have this as these little handles. You have these little green handles. And so we need to make 4 of those. So it's just going to make 4 boxes. Okay. But then I want to make sure that I space these out evenly. I need to bring that box back in. And so you'll notice that when I highlight in between there, I can space these out just like so. So you can kind of see how that's going to work. And let's see, I'm going to bring this back in because we only need the 4. And I want to make sure that I resize. You notice that when I resize one, when it's a repeat grid, it resizes them all. So I want to make sure that that size is about the size of our button. And I want to make sure, again, click in the middle there, oops, and make sure our spacing is laid out similarly. If I click on this whole thing, I can come up here into our positioning here and space this out in center, exactly center. So you can kind of see that aligned center. So I aligned our whole thing center right in there. Okay. And then I can come over here and move my button. I need to make my button a little bit smaller. So we're going to kind of do that. In fact, if I click on the size of this image here, so see how it's 313 pixels, we should probably make that more of a round number. So we can either make that a little bit wider, like 350, and it'll readjust that sizing for all of those, or we can make it a little bit smaller. So let's go ahead and make it smaller. Let's make it 300. And let's go ahead and make the height, let's make the height 350. Okay. And so that'll resize all of those boxes for us, just like that. Okay. Need to move this button down just a little bit. And in fact, so what happened here is I need to move this down also. And hang on just a sec before we're going to come back to that in just a minute. Move this down. And so from here, I'm going to go ahead and drag this down again. And you'll notice that I have, an extra box here. So what I want to do is I want to spread those images down, those image boxes down, so that it fills out my grid. Pretty snazzy. And just make sure I space that down. And I'm not going to have enough room to fit all those images in there like I want to. So I'm going to have to double click this guy. And we're going to have to change our dimensions here. So let's just make it an even square, 300 by 300. And then that'll allow me to move our button up. And let's go ahead and change the width of this button to 300 pixels and hit the enter return key there. And now it'll give me some room to play with. So I just click my mouse right in the middle there. And let's go ahead and align this guy to the image. And we need to set this title up so that it will also be in the middle. Let's just move that just like that. Okay. So next I want to do the same thing for the button, and I have my button symbol here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that same repeat grid option that we just had, and I'm going to drag this out. And remember, we have 4 of these, so then I move my cursor right in the middle, and we position those where they should be, and we should also use our little center button there, and that should center them closely to where we need to be. We're off just a little bit, so we need to position this so that it's on the edge. Looks like it's trying to position it just A little bit left of that. So let's go ahead and just do this manually. We can come back and tweak with that just a little bit later. It's about 188 pixels. You can see that we're close there, okay? And then, so we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna come down with these, but we only need that one row. So you can kind of see it behind the image right there. So if we just use our little spacer, we'll bring those down below. And we should space them just about in the same way where they were before. Okay, so now if I need to make an adjustment to these, it'll adjust them all at the same time. So that way I don't have to do like copying and pasting, moving them individually. They will all move as I need them to. The other cool thing about how this works is because since we made these a symbol, check this out. If we double click on our button here, and if I want to change something about this button, so say I want to change the fill, I go to the fill box over here to the right, and let's say, let's make it that same gray color that we did earlier, and we'll change all of these things later on. So I'm going to type in the hashtag and then CCC, and then hit return, and it's going to fill all of those buttons with that same color. Now we also need to make sure that when we double click on this, we need to bring the text to the front, and we do that. Let's see here. It's not letting us do that individually. So let's see. Oh, the text is gray. That's why. So let's change the font color of our text to, let's see, there's the fill. Change that to black. So then that appears, and then hit enter return. So anytime that we change the appearance of our buttons, because it's a symbol and we've used it over here, it'll change it in every instance that we've used it. So it's super handy when we have multiple elements to style or to create on a single page. Before we get any further, let's go ahead and add some of those little details like I was talking about just a minute ago. We're going to add a menu drop down little bar over here, or we could actually add some links over here if we'd like to. So for now, what we're going to do is we're just going to, let's go ahead and put a symbol. Let's just go ahead and put another symbol over here, and we're just going to draw a real rough, simple style. Let's see here. Click on our bar tool here. Let's go ahead and put in, like I said, those. Actually, let's use the square tool and zoom in and bring this over. We're just going to draw some real simple 3 bars, and we're just going to repeat those. So I'm just going to grab my move tool, hit the V key, use the Alt tool, and then just click and drag those down. And this is going to represent, oops, Control Z. Sorry, let's do this again. This is going to represent our menu that we'll use, say, for a drop down. And let's go ahead and position these things. Oops. Let's go ahead and position these 3 items over here, closer to the edge there, so it's filling in where our margins are. And let's go ahead and right click on this, and then let's group those together. So by grouping those together, I'll be able to move them a little bit easier. So I'm going to zoom out. Okay. So for our next piece, we're going to come back down, and we're going to make some adjustments to this religion detail. And what we're going to have to do is move some stuff around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete the title out of there, and I'm going to move our image around. And I don't, because I want to keep some of this stuff here. I just need to move it so I can add some room for our header and footer. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come over here to my assets over here on the left hand side, and I'm just going to click and drag and add that footer in. Now you'll notice that up here, oops, Control Z that, Okay, notice I have this symbol as well that goes inside of the header. So I believe that I would have to group those together in order for that to bring that symbol in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this and we're going to make that into a symbol. So I'm going to right click, make symbol, and this is just going to become our, this is what's called the hamburger menu. And if we come back to our header over here, all we have to do is click and drag that into place. Hang on, something went awry. There we go. Wait a minute. Come on. There it is. Okay, we're gonna just drop that in about in the same spot. I'm not sure where the position of this one is, so let's go ahead and check that out. Let's see, we got XY coordinates at 1786 by Y23. So let's bring it, we're gonna just come over to here. 1786 by 23. Okay, so now I have my menu in there. And in fact, I think if I double click this, I could even make this, I think if I right click, let's try this. I think I can group these together as a symbol or create it as a symbol, and then that hamburger menu would appear in all of those things. So let's see if I can just override. In fact, let's see if I can just open header. Nope. So let's go ahead and see if I can just make this. I'm learning as you guys do for the most part. Thought there was a way to update the header with that symbol so that we could create that whole piece. So perhaps I needed to do that first and then group those symbols. So let's try this. Let's go ahead and delete the header, and then let's right click. Well, let's just go over here and hit the plus, and then let's just call this header, and let's see if this will work. So let's go ahead and delete this header out that we just did on the religion detail page, and then let's see if we can bring our header back in. Yeah, there we go. So that's the way to do it. And I believe if I still double click on this hamburger menu, and if I make changes to that hamburger menu, it'll update it in all those areas. So now I can do that. So let's go ahead and and then that's in there as a symbol as well. Okay, so we'll have to do that for the footer as well because we'll need to add some content into there. Let's go ahead and put that in there in the bottom of our page. Scroll down a little bit, and we'll need to mess with some spacing here. Grab these guys, and we're just going to move these up, and we'll play with those here in just a minute. And let's go ahead and actually, what I just did, I just put that footer in. I don't want to do that. Let's come over here, and in this first header, let's go ahead and eliminate that as a symbol, and we're going to need to put in some text. So this is usually where you put like copyright material and things like that. So we're just going to type in like world religions, and then we need to like put in a copyright. So let's go ahead and make that smaller, bring that down. We need to start class here and move that. We're going to go ahead and center that in the page, bring that up, and then we would just go ahead and we're just going to alt click and bring that down again, and then here we're going to put in the copyright symbol, and I believe we can insert a copyright symbol. I can't remember, let's see, gotta find it. Thought there was a way to insert a copyright symbol. Not so. Okay, I'm gonna have to look up how to do that. So let's just go ahead and type in copyright, and we'll put in the copyright. Later on, the copyright symbol, and we'll just put in the copyright date, copyright 2018. And let's make that a little bit smaller than the footer. Let's make that like 18-point font. And let's go ahead and move that down just a little bit. Something like that. Okay, that's just real simple. Sometimes there's menu options, there's social media options in there. And that's probably actually what we should do, is put some social media icons in the bottom. Or we can put them up at the top. I'd like to put some type of logo over here perhaps later on. So perhaps we could just use our square button, our square tool over here, and say for future reference, these are going to be social media icons. So let's go ahead and make those all the same size, 50 by 50. And we're just going to repeat those. We're actually going to make those our repeat grid and bring those out. And we'll say we're just going to do 4 of those. Kind of space them out just a little bit. And those will be our social media icons. So we'll make those happen later on. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to select this whole square, just like that. And then we're going to make that into a symbol. And this is going to be, oops, Control Z. This symbol is going to be our footer. So now I can come over here to my religion detail page and bring in the footer down here at the bottom and put that into place. And there we go. So now we kind of have our design kind of taking shape there, or at least our wireframe, and we'll add some more of these details later on. Okay, so go ahead and Control S, Control Save, and on the next tutorial we'll play around more with this religion detail page to make it look a little bit nicer.